The Fed just low-key dropped a playbook to sell gold and buy Bitcoin, and nobody's talking about it. Okay, this is not from a Bitcoin bro on Twitter. This is from the Federal Reserve, and they just published a research note that casually explains how a country can tap gains on its gold reserves without selling an ounce. And right after that, they mentioned Bitcoin. Not a joke, not a rumor, it's right there. Translation, the US government just laid out a stealth playbook. Revalue gold, unlock capital, use that capital to stack Bitcoin. This is how you pivot the financial system without admitting that you're doing it. Saylor's been screaming it. Senator Loomis proposed it. Now it's in Fed literature. And if you're not paying attention, you're gonna miss the greatest wealth transfer of our lifetime. Welcome back, I'm Sophie, and by the end of the show today, you'll understand why 250K Bitcoin isn't optimistic, it's conservative. Send it!
We hold them at about a 1974 value, which was, I don't know, $46 an ounce or some such thing, and then bring them to market value and then use that to buy Bitcoin.
Sell all the US gold, buy Bitcoin, then the trade is free because you could buy 5 million Bitcoin for the cost of the gold. You will demonetize the entire gold asset class, and our enemies hold gold in their banks, so their assets would go to zero. Our assets would go to $100 trillion, and we would control the world's reserve capital network as well as the world's reserve currency network.
Could you sell some of the gold in Fort Knox to buy Bitcoin? Can we? Is that possible?
Well, if it's budget neutral and doesn't cost the taxpayer a dime,
you're kind of exchanging one for the other.
We'll see whatever creative ideas that we can come up with. And, you know, like I said, with all the interagency working group actors that will convene in these meetings, I mean, we're going to hear some tremendous ideas about how we could do it. I just don't want to box us in yet to what that actually looks like because I want to be able to hear from everybody.
Okay, let's actually talk about this Federal Reserve bombshell because the headlines aren't doing it justice. This is from their latest note. Several countries have unlocked billions by revaluating their gold reserves without selling a single ounce. This mechanism has been discussed in the context of a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Translation, here's how we could tap into gold to stack more Bitcoin if we needed to. And the gold bugs, they're flipping. ECR Minerals, a gold mining company, just announced they're putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet. Think about that. The gold bugs are flipping. The Fed is hinting. The game is changing. And someone better check on Peter Schiff.
Peter, wake up.
Now here's where things get real interesting. Arthur Hayes just laid down one of the most important economic breakdowns we've seen in years. And it's not some wild prediction, it's math. He says there's only one path left for the system: print money or collapse. Let's walk through it. The US mortgage system, led by Fannie and Freddie, needs about $5 trillion just to stay solvent. Now add in regional bank bailouts, shadow banking risks, commercial real estate defaults, and you're staring down the barrel of $9 trillion in required liquidity.
How they're going to print, I think, in the realm of $9 trillion-ish between now and that period of time. And that is, you know, Fannie and Freddie, the government supported entities that are allowed to create mortgages in the US. Yeah. They will print $5 trillion. You will have probably up to $1 trillion purchased by the banking system due to supplemental leverage ratio exemptions and purchasing things that the foreigners are selling. And I think the banks are going to because they now don't have to hold all this equity capital against their treasury book. Yeah, they can lend more into the real American economy. And so you're going to see the amount of loans going to manufacturing firms increase, which is, again, that's an increase in credit, and that will make its way into crypto as well.
Again, this isn't speculation. This is how math works. If growth doesn't go up exponentially, the debt pyramid cracks. And while America's trying to plug that hole, capital is leaving. Asian countries, Korea, Taiwan, Singapore, are repatriating dollars back home. Hayes' takeaway? When foreign buyers vanish, the Fed becomes the buyer of everything. Stocks, bonds, housing. Sound familiar? That's QE on steroids. That's how you get 250K Bitcoin and then some.
Well, if foreign money went into the US because the US markets have been the best performing, whether it's stocks, bonds, or real estate. And if that money is leaving and it's going to go back into their local markets, then the US markets don't do so well. And maybe it's better to own Taiwanese stocks or Indonesian stocks or Thai stocks, or all these other emerging market countries who are basically going to say, okay, we're forced to repatriate this money back on shore. Our currencies appreciate. Our consumer gets wealthier because now they can purchase more things, and maybe people want to build business domestically to service that economy.
Hayes calls this the death spiral of traditional assets. Boomers are retiring. They need to sell stocks and real estate for cash. But the buyers? Millennials who don't want inflated assets. They want mobility, freedom, Bitcoin. So what happens? The government becomes the buyer of last resort. Again, which means more printing, more inflation, and the real intergenerational wealth transfer happens via inflation, not inheritance.
Yeah, for crypto, right? Or any other types of digital assets, because the boomers have stocks to sell. Does anyone want these stocks? Maybe to some extent. Do they want that big suburban house or whatever they have, or apartment in the city? I don't know. So I think there's going to be a massive issue in terms of if the younger generation wants to buy things that the older generation is selling, and they need to sell those things to fund their retirement. How does that square? Are they going to increase taxes because the asset prices of things the boomers own and went down and they can't afford their retirement? So then they're going to tax the young more to pay for their retirement. And are the young going to accept that? I don't know.
What would you guess?
I think there's going to be a lot of intergenerational conflict. I don't know the outcome of it.
What?
But it could be money printing at the end of the day, right? Because it's a very easy way for the government to solve this problem.
Here's Hayes' mic drop. Assets that need money printing will do it. Assets that don't will absorb it. Let that sink in. Bitcoin doesn't need support. It is support. It's the hard cap. The signal in the noise. Hayes calls $250K Bitcoin conservative in this environment. Not a fantasy, a floor.
The 250 by end of the year. Is that still your timeline, or have you changed
so I
things
think
since?
that we get to 250,000 by the end of the year. It'll be bumpy along the way, obviously, but
Yeah.
that's sort of my end of year price target. And then $1 million Bitcoin is what I just got off stage talking about how they're going to print, I think, in the realm of $9 trillion-ish between now and that period of time. And that is, Fannie and Freddie, the government.
And if that wasn't enough, Donald J. Trump just decided to turbocharge it. This week, he's signing an executive order to allow Bitcoin into 401k retirement plans. That's $7.7 trillion in American retirement accounts now legally allowed to allocate to Bitcoin.
I will say very clearly, we want as much Bitcoin as we can possibly get. We have to do this in budget neutral ways that don't cost a taxpayer a dime, but there are countless ways in which we can do it. There can be hundreds of different ways we do this, if not thousands. And so we talked about this in different verticals, whether it be like through mining activity, whether it be through bit bonds. I mean, there's tons of creative things
like
we can do.
taxes in Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, it's endless. And so people ask me to give like clear examples, and the reason I don't want to tell you what we're going to do first yet is because I really don't want to poison the well. We want to do something that's going to be the most effective for the United States. And so when we're ready to announce that, which I'm sure we will be in short order, I think that this community will be extremely pleased.
Wall Street, boomers, family offices, pension funds, they've all been waiting for this green light. Now it's here, and the supply of Bitcoin isn't getting any bigger. You do the math. Quick legal update that should freak you all out a little bit. We have an update on the Tornado Cash case.
Hi everybody, this is David. We have a verdict in USA v. Storm. It is a mixed verdict. It's really complicated and there's a lot to talk about, but generally it is good news. On counts 1 and 3 against Roman, the conspiracy to commit money laundering and to violate sanctions, the jury was unable to reach a unanimous verdict. On those charges, we essentially have a mistrial. On the second charge, conspiracy to operate an unlicensed money transmission business, we do have a guilty verdict. However, that charge has been forked and changed a bit. Also, the maximum sentence there is 5 years. Additionally, there was a move by the prosecution to remand Roman to state custody. That was overturned, or that was denied. So Roman will be free on bail while the appeals process goes on and until sentencing. Judge Fila emphasized that there was a great deal of fighting left to do before we get to sentencing. We will obviously continue to cover that. But split decision, no unanimous verdict on charges 1 and 3, guilty verdict on charge 2, the MTB charge. We will be filling in on that as we move forward. Thanks everybody for paying attention. This is important.
Roman Storm, developer of Tornado Cash, was just found guilty of operating an unlicensed money transmission business. Not money laundering, not sanctions evasion, just building an open source code. Roman Storm says, this isn't over, we're fighting. This isn't just about Tornado, this is about all open source development, privacy, and the precedent it sets for Bitcoiners. If you build a tool that protects financial privacy, they might just call it a crime. So while the government buys Bitcoin, they're still trying to control how you use it. That's why self-custody isn't optional anymore, it's survival. And if you're serious about privacy and sovereignty, you need to talk to our friends at the Bitcoin Way. They don't just help you set up a wallet, they help you build a fortress. Whether it's multi-sig, inheritance planning, or total off-grid setups, they've got the tools and the mindset to make you ungovernable. Visit thebitcoinway.com and tell them Simply Bitcoin sent you. You can schedule a free 30-minute consultation using that link below in the show notes. And once you've secured your Bitcoin, here's how to make it work for you without selling a single sat. Life comes at you fast, and if you ever needed to tap into your Bitcoin's value without selling it, boom, you're holding pristine collateral. That's where Ledn comes in. Ledn has funded over $10 billion in Bitcoin-backed loans since 2018. No monthly payments, no penalties, just pure flexibility. You control your loan, you control your Bitcoin. Collateral is never lent out to generate interest. And every 6 months, proof of reserves. It's simple. If you need cash but don't want to sell your precious corn, Ledn has your back. Check out Ledn Bitcoin-backed loans done right. Go to learn.ledn.io/simply. Simply Bitcoin clients get 0.25% off their first loan. Bullish signal on the macro front. The odds of a rate cut in September are now 93.2%. And guess what Q4 usually brings?
I believe Bitcoin is a one-way street. And what that means is that you and I, we, the people, we need Bitcoin. In order to secure our future, we need it. But the same is for businesses. Businesses also should have savings at Treasury, and they also need to put that into Bitcoin to push that value into the future, as do corporations and as do governments. Governments also have savings, and they also need to preserve that. But as much as the corporations and the governments need Bitcoin, Bitcoin doesn't need them. Bitcoin doesn't need the governments to succeed, right? We've already done that in spite of it. So every company, to the point you're making, every company, every Mag 7 company, any company that wants to exist into the future is going to have to adopt Bitcoin. How much longer can they hold out? I would imagine by the end of this decade, in the next 5 years, the majority of them will have come over. I believe that we're going into a parabolic phase of Bitcoin. And a little bit of a contrarian take I would have is that while everybody's expecting the CAGR, the compounded annual growth rate of Bitcoin, to continue to diminish because of the law of large numbers, I think there's a possibility we could see the CAGR actually start to accelerate again for a bit as we go through this parabolic phase. Everyone's going to realize this by the end of the decade. We haven't jumped into the macro side, but if you look at what Elon Musk said when he left the government, when he left Doge, if you look at the pivot that Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, has made, Trump has said, it's now, there's no cutting, there's no austerity coming, it is only grow our way out. That means let inflation rip. So we'll see two things happen. We'll see inflation rip and Bitcoin rip at the same time. And every Mag 7 is going to see this and come around.
You better buckle up. Even Janet is calling for Jay Powell to fire up the money printer.
I think that perhaps the most recent data strengthens the case for some rate cut going forward. Of course, the markets have long expected there to be some rate cuts. It's, of course, contingent on the data continuing to show that inflation's under control. And
let's run it back. The Fed just told you how to sell gold to buy Bitcoin. Arthur Hayes says $9 trillion in money printing is incoming. Trump just opened 401ks to Bitcoin. The legal system is still trying to attack privacy, and the market is coiling for a breakout. If you're not prepared for this, you're gonna miss out on the biggest money transition of our lifetime. Take the hint. Take the high ground. And for the love of Satoshi, hold your own keys. And join us at Mining Disrupt 2025. It's only months away, the biggest Bitcoin mining conference and expo in the world. They're heading to Dallas, Texas, November 11th through the 13th. Meet the legends building the hash power revolution. From sovereign mining to AI plus Bitcoin integration, this is where the next wave of Bitcoin history is being written. Grab those tickets today. Come and see the Simply Bitcoin team on the news desk, and don't forget to use the promo code SimplyBitcoin for 20% off. Let us know what you think below. Like, subscribe, comment gold is dead to piss Peter Schiff off, and hit the bell so YouTube doesn't shadow ban us again. And so you can stay up to date with the peaceful revolution. Love you guys. Catch you next time. Peace.
If you prefer to go down with the ship, you.